What's up, my people? Today I have got a new topic for you. And what we are talking about is PPF installation and the difference between bulking or using the plotter. Now you may be asking, what do you mean by bulking PPF installation? That's when you get one big sheet of paper or film and drape it over any single panel and custom cut out the edges that you may need. Now, whether it be the edge here, around this piece, but you just get one big piece of film and you have to cut it out individually. Then there's using a plotter. This is essentially a big knife. It cuts it out into the design, much like you can see roughly right here. This is going to go on the hood. Now, there are nuances when it comes to using the plotter, which is really what this is about today and how we utilize the plotter. And this is how I think is the best way to do it, because it gets you the best coverage for the vehicle with maximizing your usage of your film, which can help cut cost and give a better value to the client. But as is a trend with all of my videos, you will find that I'm gonna have some disputes behind what I think is the right way to do it, which is the way that we do it here, and the way that I find other shops or other installers do it. Mostly just highlighting what I think are some inadequacies about installation and things you should be looking for or questions you should be asking when getting pricing for these services, because depending on how it's installed can make a massive difference in the cost you pay. And if you're looking for certain types of installation, they're gonna be at one price. But if you're okay with what I call lick and stick, that's gonna be a different price. Now I'm gonna go ahead and define what I mean by lick and stick installation. That's whenever a installer will use a plotter, cut the design out exactly how the plotter has it designed, and just put it on the vehicle. The problem with this is it leaves the edges exposed. Now what I'm gonna do here is actually install two separate pieces of film. One will mimic what is done whenever you do the sort of lick and stick version. You just take the plotter for face value, take it, put it on top of the panel, and it doesn't wrap the edge. Then I'm going to do another piece that will show you and demonstrate what it can look like if you bulk it, one big piece, custom cut the edges, or if you use the plotter to extend the edges. That takes a little bit more time and a little bit more knowledge of understanding which edges can and or should be extended, because trust me, it's been trial and error of understanding how much is too extension, how much is too much extension, or what is just right to get you what you need to maximize your film. Let me go install some stuff. Now, the reason this is important is because what's the entire point of installing PPF in the first place? It's to protect the paint. What's the point of protecting the paint, or say do a $2,000 install of PPF on this car if the edges aren't going to be wrapped, when the edges are the leading edge to any rock chips that might happen? Doesn't make sense to me. Unless you don't mind you just want the idea of protection and you just want it for as cheap as possible, it's best that you know to ask these questions and make sure that you're comparing apples to apples. Because if you come to me for a install on this car and I charge you $2,500, but the guy down the road is only charging $1,000, there's probably a reason why he's only charging $1,000. And it's not gonna be necessarily just the material he's using, because not all PPF is created equal as well. So there's plenty of brands of PPF out there. We can have an entire video and discussion about that. Let me know if that's something you want to talk about. We'll create an entire dialogue. Right now is purely about installation technique and things for you to ask whenever you're shopping for it. was going to say this. I think it's. Yeah. It helps if you install it the right way up. I was just sitting here thinking, I didn't think this was a piece of frozen, and why is it not sticking? I promise I know how to do this. Oh man. I was going through that entire progression in my head as you were sitting there saying it, and I was like, what? Now, mind you, this isn't exactly how it's installed. This is a little bit more difficult, and it doesn't want to do what it wants to because, well, it's all still wet. It's just a demonstration, okay? So I don't want all the keyboard warriors to get on here and start blasting me for whatever. Let's look at it. So what we are looking at here, this is going to be the lick and stick, and this is going to be representing the wrapped edge. Now, when you get in here, now, granted, this will be laying down. Can I get a towel? Whenever you get it, this little air gap you're seeing right here won't be here. But you're getting the idea here. The PPF stops right here. On the overall, hood here, what we're looking at is this edge. So this edge is not protected right here. But if you come over here, this one would be. This would come all the way around like this. You can see. And you can't really see the difference from here. But when all is said and done, with the wrapped one here, we would take it, we'd let it dry, we would tuck it into this seam here, into the pinch weld. These plastics would come off. Well, no, on this car it wouldn't. But some cars, plastics do come off. We would lay it right in here, we'd get our blade, cut it, and you wouldn't be able to see where this begins or ends. It would look like it wasn't there at all. Versus this piece, you can clearly see where it begins and ends. None of this is protected. It's prone to scratches, chips, whatever. I have two great examples for you as far as plotted the way we do it. Now we are going to go over there to the plotter. I'm going to actually show you what this looks like. But we are actively installing film on this Corvette. And as you see, we do have the hood that we still need to install. And then we have some pieces that are already on the car as far as the bumper is concerned. Now you can see this bumper has been installed, so we have some overlap right here where we've extended it here, and in here where we've extended it so we can wrap this edge, and it looks perfect. Now, once you get this, like I said, you can wrap the edge, you tuck it all the way around like this. Once these plastics get put back on here, the plastics come up to here, and it's completely flawless. From this angle, you can't see anything. If we did just the plotter and we hadn't extended it, it would stop right there. Same thing around here. Over here would probably be okay, but it would stop right here, and these edges would be exposed. These edges would be exposed. Just in general, quite a bit of exposed paint. Obviously, the big pieces are done, but the little details are not. Now we're going to go ahead and head over to the plotter, show you what that looks like real quick. Then we're going to actually show you in real time installing this hood. Now, I'm sure you've seen maybe in the video already or in the background, we do have a Graphtec plotter, which links to all kinds of different cutting software. We use a software called Core. Not exactly the cheapest program on the industry, but it is definitely the most user-friendly, and so far from what I've found, has the best plots so far. Oh, you know what? This is perfect. He already has it keyed up. Let's see if we can get in here a little tighter. So this is the hood right here. What you can see is the dotted line. This dotted line is where the plotter wants to do it naturally. This would have it just sitting on top. But we extended it by 2 inches all the way around. So once we put it on and we squeegee it out, we have enough to wrap the edges and custom cut it. So we're maximizing the film, getting the clients a better cost, because if we were to bulk this, all of this would be wasted film. But we can take this film for this car, add other pieces in, say fenders, little accent pieces from the bumper, which allows us to maximize the film, maximize cost, getting our clients the best cost we can provide with the quality install we provide. It's all a big puzzle that each has its own little spot and purpose. Whenever done right, you get quality products or quality services. So what we're going to show you now is actually installing this hybrid bulked plotted piece of film onto the hood of this car. Nice. You shouldn't get in the way as long as you don't stand right in front of the camera. Now shout out to Alpha Albie. He's a pretty long-time friend of mine and Ishie's from Chicago. I actually got the exact technique we just used on this particular Corvette or Corvette hoods from one of his videos I saw. He used that exact pattern and technique in a time lapse, and because of all the training we've got from him and the guys in Chicago, I was able to pick up his technique, and thanks, Albie. It's made our life way easier. This hood is way easier to do this style than bulking, like a pure bulk and stretching. Oh, what a nightmare. No fun at all. Because of this ridge, the way it comes up, so much easier. Tesla hoods will be easy like this too. All right, so now you saw what that looks like to actually install it, and now you're gonna see what it looks like for us to do the cut to create the lip we need to wrap it under. You can see he's already done it around this side here. You can see how much we had extended. And he comes around here. He's gonna leave himself plenty on that edge to do a custom cut on that later. He's just gonna follow this edge all the way down. So we can get the outline. We can tuck it under. So we'll go ahead and show you a quick tuck, see what that looks like. That's just our tack solution. It's an alcohol and DI water solution. It gets all of the soap out of there in the slip solution so we can move the product around on the panel. You can see it squeezes it out, gets all of that stickiness out. You can tuck it, creates that beautifully protected, flawless aesthetic that should be attributed with a quality install. As few edges you can see, the better. Quite frankly, there's not really a much better compliment you can give an installer than if you walk up to a PPF vehicle and say, "Did you even PPF this thing?" That's about as good of a compliment as you can get. And that's what we strive for with every single panel that we do here. So let's look at what the other aspect of doing these wraps are, because there's some edges you just can't wrap because they join two panels together. And that's going to be like a seam right here where the fender meets the bumper. There's a very specific technique to use to make this exposed seam as invisible as possible. Now you're going to see right here where the PPF, let me see, is this fender already done? No, the fender's not done? Okay. Oh, that's right. I'm thinking the other Corvette. The other Corvette is already. So this front bumper is done. This fender is not. But you see we have extra film right here where it overlaps, because you can tuck it in right here, but it's not going to stay long term. The only way you can do that is if you disassemble this car, take this front bumper off, then you can wrap it all the way down in there. And then if this gap is big enough, you can wrap it down in here. The reason we don't really do it with PPF is because you got to consider this is thick film. This is 8 mils thick. If you put too much in there, it just starts to crinkle. It causes a bad time. Whenever you get a cut perfectly on this edge, which we're not going to do today because we want to let this film cure overnight, we're going to come back tomorrow and do this cut. I'll pick this video back up once this cut is done to show you what it looks like, so you can see how invisible this edge becomes when cut properly. So that's where I'm going to leave you for the moment. We'll pick this video back up tomorrow so I can show you what that looks like, because we are at the end of the day, and doing something that precise, honestly, your mental clarity needs to be at its peak, because that's a very precise cut. And we're going to talk about something that's probably on your mind about, well, how do you cut on a car but not cut the paint? I don't know. We'll talk about that tomorrow.
The next day.
All right, so it is the next day, and it's time to talk about that cut line we did there. However, I was too slow, and he was too fast, so he did the cut before I was able to video it. But we will discuss how to cut on vehicles in a separate video. That's sort of worth its own video all by itself, but you can still see the accolades of what we did and how you can't see the film when it's cut properly. So let's see. We were discussing this edge right here and how we lipped it over and did a cut right on the seam to make sure we have a nice sort of hybrid use of the plotter, not just using it directly right here, because if you use just the plotter, you don't really know where it's going to put it. It's not exact. It doesn't always put it exactly where you want it to be, so you can have the cleanest finish possible. So if you're doing it right with the plotter, you should extend it and custom cut it if you have the skill. If you don't have the skill to cut on a car without cutting the paint, don't do it. Practice not on a car, or practice on your car if you want. Not on a client car though. People have done it. It's not a good look. So as you can see, I mean, obviously from here, you're not going to see it. But if you really come in, you can see how right here, you cannot see that from any angle. Now granted, this is on camera, and you can't see it with the clarity that you can in person, but it is there. It's right there. Let's see. I don't know if I'll be able to. No, either way. You can't really see it, which is the point. If PPF is done correctly, you shouldn't be able to see it. You shouldn't be able to see an edge anywhere, because an open edge or exposed edge on PPF means there is exposed adhesive, because it's layered like a cake and it will gather dirt. So the big takeaways from this is, with the differences between bulking or using a plotter, you want to find a shop that does a hybrid of the two. Unless you just really don't care and you sort of want that dealership style, just lick and stick slapped on the top, and you just like the idea of protection, then you want to make sure those edges are wrapped. I'll keep producing videos like this. If you have any questions or want further education on it, let me know. Comment down below. I'll make the videos. We'll discuss it. Until the next one. Peace.
Trendsetter, whoa, league of my own, it don't get better. No, read what I wrote, I'm a bestseller. Yeah, reach for my goals, hit it dead center, hit it dead center.